Again, I came with the continuation of video lecture, that is oral anti-diabetic drugs. So if you do not subscribe my YouTube channel, then please subscribe my YouTube channel first. And in previous lecture, we have already discussed about what is oral anti-diabetic drugs, what the classification of oral anti-diabetic drugs, and important oral anti-diabetic drugs, that is those drugs which enhance insulin secretion, has been already carried out in previous lecture. In this lecture, again we have continued from classification of oral anti-diabetic drugs, and now come to those drugs which overcome the insulin resistance. So that is biguanides, and most important drug is metformin among biguanides. So if you talk about mechanism of action of biguanides, have insulin like effects, inhibit hepatic neoglucogenesis, increase peripheral utilization of glucose and by muscles in the tissues, reduce glucose absorption in intestines, reduce appetite and reduce weight also useful in obese patients. So because of this effect, it is considered as a very important drugs for the treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus, and previous so many research papers as per on type 2 diabetes mellitus research, it is now considered as a first line anti-diabetic drugs for the newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes mellitus. There are so many advantages of prescribing the metformin. So advantages are: do not lower blood sugar level in normal subjects. This is does not going to metformin biguanides does not going to reduce blood sugar level in normal subject. It is only act on the diabetic patients. Do not produce hypoglycemia in diabetics. So hypoglycemia, which is the side effect of the sulfonylureas, can be overcome by metformin. If you prescribe metformin, the patient does not produce hypoglycemia. Preferred in obese patients because this is also going to reduce the body weight. So nowadays, if you talk about patient conditions, maximum percentage of obese and also type 2 diabetes mellitus. So these drugs are very good drugs. If you talk about pharmacokinetic, absorbed from the GI tract, reaches adequate plasma level, excreted in urine is unchanged form. Metformin is a example of biguanide. This is only one drug. Another in previous fenformin was also there. Varfenformin was excreted from the market because of lactic acidosis. Nowadays it is banned in the market. Metformin is a safer with lower incidence of lactic acidosis. While lactic acidosis was very common with the fenformin, and fenformin was banned. Does not cause insulin release from the pancreas, hence no hypoglycemia. Metformin does not going to insulin release from the pancreas. Basically, it acts like insulin. It enhances the utilization of the insulin. It is going to reduce the body weight. It does not also reduce blood glucose in normal patients. Okay, so this is a very good drugs. Duration of action is 6 to 8 hours, and 500 milligram twice a day can be given. And it is accepted nowadays as a first line treatment for type 2 diabetes mellitus. Adverse effect. If you talk about adverse effect of metformin, then abdominal pain, nausea, metallic taste and mild diarrhea can be happen. Lethargy, muscle weakness can be happen. Vitamin B deficiency due to interference with its absorption, especially high dose with longer term. Then given if you prescribe metformin for the longer time in a high doses only, that can reduce the vitamin B deficiency. Otherwise, it is not. Lactic acidosis, risk more in liver diseases and alcoholics. Although lactic acidosis very rare with metformin, but it's only it may be seen in those suffering from liver diseases or alcoholics patient. Another drug is a thiazolidinediones, another classification of oral anti-diabetic drugs. So this is basically insulin sensitizers. It requires the presence of endogenous insulin and hence can used only in type 2 diabetes mellitus, not in type 1 diabetes mellitus. For action of to act thiazolidinediones or glitazones in the body, it requires the insulin. That's what is only given in type 2 diabetes mellitus, not type 1. Selective agonist for nuclear peroxisome proliferator activator receptor gamma. This is a PPAY gamma receptor agonist also you can say. So it is called a selective agonist for the nuclear peroxisome proliferator activated receptors gamma present in the liver and adipose tissues and skeletal muscles, then promote glucose utilization. If you talk about mechanism of action of these thiazolidinodiones or glitazones, though mainly two drugs are there, rosiglitazone and pioglitazone. This selectively agonist of PPAR gamma receptors. Then it binds with the nuclear PPAR gamma receptors, activates insulin responsive genes that regulate carbohydrate lipid metabolism. So again I'm going to repeat. The rosiglitazone or pioglitazone, which is a thiazolidinodiones, is a selective agonist of PPAR gamma receptor which present on the adipose tissues, liver. So it binds with the PPAR gamma receptor, activates insulin responsive genes which regulate carbohydrate lipid metabolism, causes sensitize the peripheral tissues to insulin. So this resulting, it will going to sensitize the peripheral tissues to insulin, resulting increased glucose transport into the muscles, inhibit hepatic gluconeogenesis and promote lipogenesis. So these are the mechanism of action of thiazolidinodiones. So thiazolidinodiones, or you can say glitazones. So it reduces peripheral resistance to insulin, increase insulin sensitivity to the adipose tissues, liver, and lower hepatic glucose production, increase high density lipoprotein. So that why it is very good drugs for those patients who are suffering from type 2 diabetes with hyperlipidemia, higher cholesterol concentration. In this patient, glitazone can be prescribed. Absorbed over 2 hours after the oral administration. Absorption delayed by the food. If you talking with the food, if you taking with the food, glitazones can be delayed absorption. Metabolized by microsomal enzyme. No clinically significant drug interaction. There is no drug interaction with the thiazolidinodiones, clinically proven. Pioglitazone 15 to 45 mg once a day can be given. Advantages of thiazolidinodiones. So it reduces the hepatic gluconeogenesis, low potential of hypoglycemia, once a day administration, increase high density lipoprotein, no clinically significant drug interaction. These are the major advantages of thiazolidinodiones or glitazones. Disadvantages: 6 to 12 weeks of the treatment required to establish therapeutic effect. So produce therapeutic effect, it takes longer time. This is the major disadvantages of thiazolidinodiones. Precipitate CCF and edema. Troglitazone cause severe hepatotoxicity, so not used. The another important drug was there, troglitazone. This is not used nowadays because of severe hepatotoxicity. Although it is a very good drug, if you combine glitazone with another oral antidiabetic drug that is made for the sulfonylurea. Another disadvantage is LFT monitored regularly. Increased risk of bone fracture in the postmenopausal woman. So these are the some disadvantages which are continue with the therapy of thiazolidinodiones. Another drugs which reduce the carbohydrate absorption, that is alpha glycosidase inhibitor. So acarbose is the very good drug, very mainly prescribed as alpha glycosidase inhibitor. This is an oligosaccharide. Voglibose and miglitol is there, competitively inhibit the enzyme alpha glycosidase present in the intestinal brush border, prevent absorption and delay in digestion of the carbohydrate. So as far as mechanism of action is concerned, so when you take, if you take high carbohydrate dietary intake, this will change into, in the presence of pancreatic amylase, that is maltose, isomaltose or sucrose. This is a oligosaccharide or disaccharide. So this will change into glucose or fructose in the presence of alpha glycosidase enzyme. So these inhibitors blocks these alpha glycosidase enzyme. So these disaccharide does not change into glucose and fructose, that is called monosaccharide, and absorbed in lower part of the intestine. Hence the blood glucose concentration may be reduced, or you can say postprandial blood glucose concentration will be reduced. So those patients who are taking heavy diet and they have postprandial hyperglycemia, there is chance of postprandial hyperglycemia, then the alpha glycosidase inhibitor will reduce the absorption of carbohydrate from their diet in the intestine, hence blood glucose concentration will not increase. Pharmacological action of alpha glycosidase enzyme. These alpha glycosidase inhibitors reduce the glucose absorption from the intestine, hence it reduces the postprandial blood glucose level. Do cause hypoglycemia when used with another anti-diabetics. If you use with the combination with another anti-diabetics, it may cause hypoglycemia. Dose 25 to 50 milligram chewed or swallowed after eating or during the each meal. Adverse drug reaction, flatulence, abdominal discomfort or loose stool maybe happens with the alpha glycosidase enzyme inhibitors. So the figure shows the common oral anti-diabetic drugs. This is sulfonylurea help to increase pancreas to make extra insulin. Thiazolidinone helps to body cells to use insulin better. Biguanides stop liver from making extra sugar and when it's needed. Alpha glycosidase inhibitors slow the digestion of the starch. So in this way, these drugs going to help you for treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Another classification is the newer, some miscellaneous drugs, that is SGLT2 inhibitor. These SGLT2 inhibitor called sodium glucose co-transporter inhibitors. So large amount of glucose reabsorbed in proximal tubules by SGLT2 enzyme, SGLT2 receptor. Large amount of glucose reabsorbed in proximal tubule during the formation of the urine, filtration of the urine by SGLT2 transporter. So inhibition of this SGLT2 reduce the absorption of glucose and sodium from the proximal tubule. So SGLT2 inhibition induces glycosuria and lowers blood glucose in type 2 diabetes mellitus. These are useful when patient also have hypertension, because this will also going to reduce absorption of sodium from the proximal tubule. After once a daily dosing, they produce round the clock glycosuria and lower blood glucose level concentration. This is a newer drugs which can be prescribed in the treatment of type 2 diabetic mellitus with alone other anti-diabetic drugs or the alone. Used alone or in combination with other anti-diabetic drugs, they reduced glycosylated hemoglobin by 0.5 to 1%. It is very good drug. Do not cause hypoglycemia. May cause urinary infection due to presence of glucose, because it reduces the absorption of glucose from proximal tubules. So there is a little bit chance of the urine infection. Contraindicated in patient with renal insufficiency. Another newer drugs which is prescribed as a oral anti-diabetic drug, that is dopamine D2 agonist. So this is a bromocriptine. A quick release of oral formulation has been approved by US FDA for adjunctive treatment of type 2 diabetes. So this is approved by the US FDA. This is dopamine D2 agonist, that is bromocriptine. This is adjuvant therapy for the type 2 diabetes mellitus, means it can be given with the another oral anti-diabetic drugs. Taken early in the morning, supposed to act on hypothalamic dopaminergic control of the circadian rhythm of the hormone GH, prolactin, ACTH, etc. release and reset it to reduce the insulin resistance. Bromocriptine can be taken alone to the supplement plus diet plus exercise, or added to metformin or sulfonylurea or both. Started 0.8 milligram OD and increased up to 4.1 milligram once a daily can be given. Again I am repeating, one important thing is there. Taken early in the morning, supposed to act on hypothalamic dopaminergic control of circadian rhythm of the hormone GH, prolactin, ACTH release and reset it to reduce the insulin resistance. So it helps in insulin resistance. Is very good drug if you combine with another important oral anti-diabetic drugs. This the table shows summary of the all important oral anti-diabetic drugs. First is the sulfonylurea. This will increase insulin release from the pancreas. and also increase tissue sensitivity to insulin. Side effect may be hypoglycemia, jaundice, disulfiram-like reaction. Meglitinides increase insulin release from the pancreas, hypoglycemia may be there. Bigonides reduce tissue sensitivity to insulin, hepatic increase, reduce hepatic gluconeogenesis. Diarrhea, metallic taste or lactic acidosis may happen, very rarely it is there. Thiazolidinodiones reduce hepatic gluconeogenesis and also increase the glucose transport into the TC. Weight gain, edema, PPT, CCF, hepatotoxicity may be happen. Alpha glycosidase inhibitor reduce glucose absorption. Flatulence, diarrhea, abdominal distension can be happen. DPP-4 inhibitor reduce appetite and increase insulin secretion. So headache, allergy, pancreatitis, or reduce appetite. So it may be given for the obese patients. SGLT2 inhibitors increase glucose excretion and also inhibit the sodium glucose transported to urinary frequency, electrolyte imbalance can be happen. So this is the overall summary of all the oral anti-diabetic drugs. Let's come to the indication of oral anti-diabetic drugs, or you can say status of oral hypoglycemic agents. So if the age is more than 40 years at the onset of disease, this is a good candidate of oral hypoglycemic agent. Obesity at the time of presentation, in the time of the diagnosis. Fasting blood sugar more than 200 mg per dl. Insulin requirement more than 40 units per day. Duration of the disease more than 5 years, less than 5 years when they are starting treatment of the obesity. No ketoacidosis or complications. So these are the conditions which are the good candidate of treatment of by oral hypoglycemic agent. Current recommendation is to start metformin therapy right at the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes mellitus. If you talk about the current recommendation, you have to start with metformin therapy when diagnosis of the diagnosis confirmed with the type 2 diabetes mellitus, along with dietary and other lifestyle measures, without waiting to see if the latter alone are sufficient. Waiting to see if the latter alone are sufficient. Metformin may delay progression of diabetic severity by favorably affecting beta cell health and retarding beta cell failure. So as per current recommendation, when a patient come to the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes mellitus, write or start with the metformin therapy, because it will further reduce the favorable effect to reduce the beta cell health and retarding the beta cell failure. Many type 2 diabetes patients do not attain the target level of glycemic control, and HbA1c reduction is less than 7%. So with the metformin alone, so second drug is needed. That time sulfonylurea are the most commonly selected second drugs. Patient with near normal fasting blood glucose but permanent postprandial hypoglycemia, or those experiencing late post-meal hypoglycemia may do better with pre-meal rapaglinide and natiglynide, that is thiazolidinodiones. Pioglitazone is usually third choice of drug. Meglitinide. Now rapaglinide and natiglynide is meglitinide. Pioglitazone is usually third choice drug, may be added to metformin or combination of metformin plus sulfonylurea. The newer oral antidiabetics that have gained popularity now are DPP-4 inhibitors. However, the DPP-4 inhibitors causes moderate glycosylated hemoglobin lowering compared to sulfonylurea. Otherwise, DPP-4 inhibitors is a most preferable drugs from the to combine with the metformin and other drugs. But if you compare with the reduction of glycosylated hemoglobin, so sulfonylurea have a good glycosylated hemoglobin reduction level as compared with the DPP-4 inhibitors. But there are some other important advantages by prescribing DPP-4 inhibitors there. The SGLT2 inhibitors are the newest class of oral drugs that may be considered for the addition to combination of oral anti-diabetic regimen when latter fails to achieve the target glycosylated hemoglobin level. So when you prescribe with the metformin, metformin plus other combination drugs, when the target glycosylated hemoglobin does not achieve, then we can combine with the SGLT2 inhibitor. Up to 50% patient of type 2 diabetes mellitus initially treated with the oral anti-diabetics ultimately need insulin. Moreover, when a diabetic on oral anti-diabetics presents with the infection, severe trauma, stress, pregnancy, ketoacidosis and any other complication can be switched over to insulin. Metformin alone or combination with sulfonylurea or DPP-4 inhibitors usually continued with the insulin. It can be continued with the insulin. If you talk about pharmacotherapy of type 2 and type 1 diabetes mellitus, how to write pharmacotherapy of type 2 or type 1 diabetes mellitus, then we can given the new patient of diabetes. So either type 1 or type 2. If you patient with type 1, then diet plus insulin we can give in. Then it may be controlled. When you talk about type 2, we have start with the new patient, diet plus exercise plus metformin. I am talking of newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes mellitus. So I'm talking about pharmacotherapy of type 2 diabetes mellitus and also type 1 diabetes mellitus. So I am talking here for pharmacotherapy for newly diagnosed diabetes mellitus cases. So if you talk about pharmacotherapy for type 1 and type 2 for the newly diagnosed diabetes mellitus. So for the type 1, the diet plus insulin is sufficient and they can be controlled. But when we talk about type 2 diabetes mellitus for the newly diagnosed, so you have to prescribe with diet, exercise and metformin. In lecture also in Begonite's metformin, I have already mentioned metformin is considered as a first line anti-diabetic drugs and you may be prescribed in the newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes mellitus. So diet plus exercise plus metformin, controlled then okay. If not controlled, then we have to switch over to, if the patient is uncomplicated, well nourished and obese. If the patient is obese, then we have to combine metformin plus one drug from sulfonylurea, meglitinides, pioglitazone, DPP-4 inhibitors or alpha glycosidase inhibitor. Depending on the case, you have to select metformin plus one drug. If controlled, then okay. If not controlled, then we have to switch over to metformin plus two drugs. Two drugs among sulfonylurea, meglitinides, DPP-4 inhibitors, pioglitazone and alpha glycosidase inhibitors. In again, if not controlled, if the patient is severe, underweight, complication present in pregnancy, infection, surgery, then patient directly switch over to insulin plus metformin. Then it may be controlled. Then again, if not controlled, then okay. Then again, if not controlled with metformin plus two drugs, then it can switch over to insulin plus metformin plus any one drugs, either DPP-4 inhibitor, sulfonylurea. This may be controlled. So in this way, we can write pharmacotherapy of type 2 diabetes mellitus or type 1 diabetes mellitus.